The day Amina nearly died from envy was the day the truth began to unfold. It started with a pepper soup stain. Hot, red, oily broth splashed onto her white blouse as she sat laughing beside Komi under the mango tree at Baroda Junction. The laughter, sharp and sweet, sliced through the air, but it wasn't real. Not for Amina. As Komi threw her head back, flashing her perfect teeth and swaying her beaded braids, Amina forced another laugh. Her eyes followed the gold bangles on Komi's wrist, the phone that probably cost more than her yearly salary, and the car keys that jingled with power. Amina smiled, but her soul burned quietly. Now let us go back. Let us start this tale properly, as our ancestors would say, from the root, not the branch. Long ago, in the bright, bustling town of Dakala, two girls bloomed side by side like flowers from different seeds. Their names were Amina and Komi. To look at them, you'd think they were sisters. Both tall, dark-skinned, with gleaming eyes and confidence in their walk. People often said they looked like twins from different mothers, but life shaped them very differently. Amina was born in Makuro, a quiet village wrapped in red earth and old prayers. Her parents were humble people, her father a retired teacher, her mother a seller of groundnut paste. She was raised in a house where dawn began with prayers and ended with quiet chores. Books were her friends, and dreams were her only luxury. Komi, on the other hand, came from Baroda, a town that never slept. Her mother, Mama Falila, was a woman known for two things: her fierce love for her daughter and her whispered power in matters of the spirit. Komi's father? Nobody quite knew. Some said he was a merchant. Others said he was a myth. They met in secondary school, back when uniforms were oversized and dreams were louder than reality. One defended the other from a bully, and from that day, their friendship was sealed like a calabash with beeswax. As the years passed, their paths remained parallel, but their destinations began to drift. Amina went to college. She studied hard, graduated with a clean certificate, found work as a clerk in a government office. Every morning, she squeezed into crowded minibuses, her face pressed against the window as the city groaned with traffic. Her job paid just enough to feed her, house her in a tiny single room in Kaba district, and keep her dreaming. Komi flew. After secondary school, she vanished from the village grapevine for a few years. When she returned, she was transformed. Gone was the girl who wore hand-me-down sandals. In her place stood a woman who smelled of imported perfume and moved like the wind had somewhere to take her. She owned a gadget shop at the Grand Nuku Trade Grounds. Not a table and umbrella type of stall, no. This was a proper store. Glass doors, shelves packed with shiny electronics, generators humming, clients calling her Madam K. She lived in a furnished flat atop Zaki Hill, where the air was cooler and the streets had names. She drove a dark blue SUV. She wore Ankara dresses that looked custom-made. And she traveled to Accra, Nairobi, even Johannesburg. Amina watched and watched. On Sundays, Komi would arrive at their local buka in a cloud of jasmine perfume, hug Amina tightly, and ask about her job, her salary, her plans. Still working that office job, eh? That's good. At least you have something steady, Komi would say, sipping from a chilled glass of Zobo. But there was always something in her voice. Not mocking, not pity, just ... something. And every time Amina smiled and nodded, her heart curled tighter. She started counting things. How many phones Komi had, how many times she had traveled in a year, how many times her own rent was almost overdue. She would sit in her small room, the ceiling fan squeaking, the rice pot on the stove half full, and mutter, "I went to school, I did everything right, but look at me, still trekking, still wearing old skirts." Meanwhile, Komi, who didn't even finish diploma, is living like a queen. Bitterness tastes like raw cola nut. It builds slow and stays long. So when Amina started asking questions, Comey answered with laughter. You want to do business? Amina, business no beans. That market is not for soft hearts. Amina leaned in. But you're doing it. Look at you. Traveling up and down. Big shop. Fine clothes. You make it look so easy. Comey chuckled, tapping her fingernails gently on the table. Easy, my dear. The only thing easy about it is how people believe what they see. You see lights, shelves, customers. What you don't see is the fight behind it. Fight? You mean competition? Comey shook her head. Her smile faded. No, I mean real fight. Spiritual, mental, market life is war. Nduku market? It's not just buying and selling. It's where spirits compete. Where charms speak louder than prices. Where people block your blessings with a whisper or a buried feather. Amina's brows furrowed, her spoon frozen in midair. Comey continued. Before I opened my shop, Mama. Falila fasted for 7 days. She cooked special leaves. She burnt incense. She tied protective amulets and buried one at the foot of my door. Some traders chant before sunrise. Others pour blood. Some scatter ash near rival shops to drive away luck. Amina was silent for a long time, staring into her bowl. So you're saying business success isn't natural? That I can't survive without charms? I'm saying faith alone won't protect your shop. You need to be prepared, spiritually alert, have your own backing, your own warriors. Otherwise, you'll be like a lamb in a lion's pit. But Amina was already too far gone. Her dreams were louder than her fears. She wasn't hearing warnings, only opportunity. She stood up, dusted her wrapper, and smiled. Thank you for your advice, Comey. I truly hear you. But as for me, I've made my decision. I'm going to resign. I've saved enough. I want to try. I want more. Comey looked at her for a long time, sadness hiding behind her lashes. Then prepare yourself, not just your pockets. Prepare your spirit. Because Nduku market will test everything. You think you believe. Amina nodded, hugged her friend, and walked away, not knowing that her life was about to walk through fire. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay on her mattress, eyes open, staring at the ceiling that danced with the shadows of her dreams. Her heart beat like a talking drum. She whispered to herself, by this time next year, I'll be flying to cities. I'll buy lace from Togo. I'll eat what I want. I won't be poor again. Outside, the crickets sang, the moon watched, and the spirits of the market stirred silently, waiting. The next morning, before the sun even yawned awake, Amina stood by her small window, staring out at the sleepy streets of Kaaba. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from the kind of excitement only dreams create. Today wasn't just another day. Today she was finally free. She tied her headscarf, adjusted her wrapper, and whispered, "This is it." By midday, she had gone to the office, printed her resignation letter, handed it to her surprised supervisor, and walked out with her final salary and a small brown envelope containing her severance pay. No farewell hugs, no cake, just quiet determination. By week's end, she had gathered everything: her savings, pension, cooperative contributions. It totaled 6.7 million naira. She held the money in trembling hands, eyes glistening. My freedom. Money, she said aloud, as though the words would carry her higher. She didn't tell Comey, not because she was angry, but because she didn't want discouragement. This was her leap, and she would leap alone. Quietly, she secured a modest shop, nestled inside a bustling wing of the Nduku trade grounds. It wasn't grand, but it had sturdy walls, a strong door, and just enough space to display the treasures she was ready to sell. She named it Zahara Gadgets, quality you can feel. She spent her first week decorating the space with her whole heart. She arranged fans, power banks, rechargeable lamps, smooth finish blenders, shiny speakers. Every item had its place, every shelf a plan. On her grand opening morning, she dressed in her brightest attire, a yellow Ankara skirt that danced with the breeze. She played soft gospel music from a speaker near her entrance. The lyrics floated gently. Oluwa is involved. Nothing is impossible. She smiled, wiped invisible dust from her counter, and waited. And waited. 3 hours passed. Then, finally, a man walked up. He stopped, examined a fan placed neatly at the shop front. Amina straightened her back, voice cheerful. "Good afternoon, sir. That fan is the strongest in its class. Quiet motor, 2-year warranty. I can even give you promo price today." The man looked at the fan, then at her, said nothing, and walked away. She blinked, confused, but brushed it off. Moments later, a woman passed by, eyeing the rechargeable blender near the entrance. Amina smiled wide. "Auntie, welcome. This blender is small but mighty. Good for soups, spices, even baby food." The woman didn't reply. Instead, she turned and stepped into the next shop, where she bought the exact same blender. Amina's chest tightened. She sat down, sipped water, and reassured herself. "It's my first day. They don't know me yet. Maybe they're loyal to the other seller." But it wasn't just that day. It became the pattern. Day after day, week after week, month after month, 5 whole months. Crowds flooded the market. Customers came in waves. But never to her. People passed her shop like it was made of glass. Some would pause, gaze at her shelves, then turn sharply and buy from her neighbors, even paying more for the same items. One afternoon, rain pounded the roof of the market like drumbeats. Amina smiled hopeful. Rain meant people would seek shelter and maybe finally a sale. She opened her door wide. "Please, come in, oh. There's space here." No one came, not one. Her neighbors' shops were packed bodies pressing shoulder to shoulder under the roof. But her shop? Empty. It felt like a curse. She sat back, slowly blinking away the sting in her eyes. "Is it me?" she whispered. "Do I look strange? Is my face pushing them away? Or maybe something is wrong with this shop." When the rain stopped, she locked up and walked home. That evening, the market buzzed with energy. Traders shouted prices. Customers bargained. POS machines beeped with transactions. Amina walked through it, all like a ghost. She didn't even notice when the tears rolled down her cheeks. She just kept walking. Because slowly, painfully, a truth she had refused to believe began to echo inside her. Maybe, just maybe, Comey had been right. By the 7th month, Amina's spirit began to fray like old cloth at the edge of a washing stone. Every single day followed the same script. Wake by 5 a.m., whisper a rushed prayer, shower, put on her best clothes, and head to Zahara Gadgets. She would unlock her little shop, sweep every corner until the tiled floor gleamed, dust the shelves, arrange her stock fans on the left, speakers on the right, lamps and blenders at the center, and then sit with hopeful eyes, hopeful. But nothing changed, not a single sale, not one item moved. Her savings were thinning, her joy had dried up. Each evening, she returned home with heavy feet and heavier thoughts. She'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, tears sliding into her ears. As she whispered to the darkness, "Did I miss your voice, Lord? Did I make a terrible mistake?" Her stomach twisted each time she remembered how she had sacrificed everything, her pension, her savings, even the cooperative money she had been contributing for 5 years. All poured into a shop that stood quiet like a forgotten shrine. And still, she didn't tell Comey. Pride shackled her tongue. She couldn't bear to admit failure. Comey had warned her. But Amina had brushed it off like dust on her blouse. Now that dust had become a storm. Each morning she sat, the soft gospel music playing, her face lifted in hope, her lips moving in prayer. But the market around her roared on, ignoring her. Her neighbors' shops thrived busy, buzzing, bursting with laughter, chatter, and the sweet sound of pause machines. But her shop stood still. One quiet morning, just before sunrise, she decided, "Today I'll go earlier. I'll go and pray. Maybe I need to fight harder in the spirit." She arrived at the market before 6 a.m., but to her shock, she wasn't alone. As she walked through the narrow paths, she saw a man and a woman dressed in white wrappers, barefoot, standing outside a shop with a live goat tied beside them. The woman was chanting in Yoruba, her voice rising and falling like a river song. She circled the goat, whispering to it as if it understood. "From this day forward," the woman declared, placing her hand on the goat's head, "every foot that enters this market will be drawn to this shop. They will not pass us by. Even if they don't need what we sell, they will stop. They will buy." Amina froze. Her skin prickled. She clutched her bag tight and whispered, "Huh, is this what's happening here?" She moved further down the path, still in disbelief, and spotted another woman, this one speaking in tongues. Eyes shut tight, hands lifted to the sky. Her voice cracked with intensity. Her body trembled. Sweat poured down her back, soaking her wrapper. She had clearly been praying for hours. Amina felt small. Her own 5-minute morning prayers suddenly seemed like whispers in a storm. When she reached her shop, she stood at the entrance, staring. No goat, no incense, no chants, just her gospel speaker humming softly in the background. So this was what Komi had meant. She slumped onto her stool and whispered, "All this while, I thought I was doing enough. But look at me, just playing music and hoping for a miracle." For the first time she realized, maybe it wasn't about the goods or the prices. Maybe it was the ground beneath her feet. Maybe the market truly was more than it seemed. So she made up her mind. She would pray harder. Fight harder. From that night, she began waking at midnight to pray. Not just short words, but fierce prayers, declarations, warfare, praise. And slowly, like dawn breaking over misty hills, things began to shift. A woman walked in and bought a standing fan. 2 days later, a man came for a rechargeable lamp and left with 3. By the second week, Amina was selling daily. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she counted her first full day of earnings. "Thank you," she whispered, eyes closed. She kept praying, she kept selling. But the peace didn't last. Her neighbors noticed. One morning, as she was arranging her shelf, a thick-set woman with sharp eyes walked past her door, paused, and hissed, "This small girl. Better watch yourself. This market no get pity. We don't share customers here." Amina looked up, startled. "Good morning, ma." The woman didn't reply. Days later, another trader came over, a man in a red kaftan who sold electronics. He didn't smile. "Madam Amina," he said slowly, "you're new here, but don't let small success deceive you. We've been here long. People must learn to respect boundaries." She blinked. "I just want to sell in peace," she said gently. The man nodded, but his eyes were cold. "Peace is for churches. This is a battlefield." And then the sickness came. One bright morning, Amina arrived early, excited. It had rained the night before, and she felt refreshed, full of expectation. But the moment her foot touched the ground in front of her shop, she felt a sudden sharp sting under her sole. She looked down, nothing was there. She limped inside, confused. Within hours, she was burning with fever. Her head throbbed. Her vision blurred. "What is this?" she murmured, wiping sweat from her brow. She hadn't been sick when she left home. And now, her body was failing. She sat slumped on her stool, weak, shivering, surrounded by shelves full of untouched goods. The market carried on outside, loud and alive. But inside Zahara Gadgets, silence. And in that silence, Amina finally whispered, "What have I stepped into?" By midday, Amina's fever had worsened. Her skin burned, yet she shivered. Her eyes were heavy, her bones ached, and a strange weakness clung to her like wet clothes. Every step she took felt like a battle. Still, she dragged herself to the nearest clinic, clutching her wrapper tightly and whispering soft prayers with every painful step. The nurse at the front desk took one look at her and rushed her in. They took blood. They took urine. They checked her temperature, which had spiked frighteningly high. The young doctor on duty furrowed his brow as he examined her test results. Everything was normal. Too normal. He ran another set of tests. Still nothing unusual. Finally, he sat across from her, his white coat crumpled from hours of wear. He tapped his pen against the desk. "Madam, I don't quite understand this," he said gently. "Medically speaking, everything is fine. Your body is not showing any infection, any bacterial issue, or signs of malaria. Your organs are functioning normally, but clearly, you're very sick." Amina sat quietly, her head pounding, eyes wide. "So, what are you saying, doctor?" He leaned forward, his tone cautious. "Sometimes, when science fails to give an answer, we suggest that the patient seeks spiritual care." "Spiritual?" She whispered. "Yes, this could be more than physical. Maybe something deeper." Amina's heart sank. Her breath caught in her throat. The word spiritual echoed in her chest like a drumbeat. She staggered out of the clinic, dazed. The sun outside stung her eyes. She had taken the tablets the doctor prescribed, but deep inside she knew this was not a sickness ordinary medicine could fix. That night, her body trembled under her bedsheet as thoughts raced through her mind like wild horses. The fever hadn't broken. The drugs barely eased the pain. Sweat soaked her pillow. Her ears rang with the memory of the trader's voice. "We don't share customers here." Another voice surfaced. "Respect is earned." Amina's eyes welled. With tears, she clutched her chest. "This shop, this dream ... is it trying to kill me?" she whispered. She stayed up all night, tossing, praying, crying. By morning, her pillow was wet and her resolve shattered. She sat on the edge of her bed, feet dangling, her hands trembling. She looked around her small flat, at the wall she once decorated. With excitement, at the notebook where she'd once scribbled her business goals. "I cannot die over this," she said aloud. She had given the market 6 months. 6 months of prayers, of fasting, of smiling through tears, of enduring loneliness, and now sickness. Enough was enough. The next morning, she rose with heavy limbs and went to her shop for the last time. She didn't pray. She didn't play gospel music. She simply opened her shutters and began pulling goods off the shelves. A blender here, a fan there, all stacked into cartons. By noon, the whisper had spread. "Madame Zahara is selling off." Traders began to pour in. "How much for the rechargeable lamp?" "Cost price." "What of the stereo set?" "Take it. Just pay and go." Some she sold, even below cost. Some items were exchanged for far less than they were worth. She just wanted out. She didn't care about profit. She wanted peace. Within 3 hours, Zahara Gadgets was no more. The shelves were empty. The signboard looked down at her like a sad reminder of what had once been a dream. She turned the key in the lock one last time and whispered, "You win." As she walked out of the market that afternoon, the sky grew dark with thick clouds. It was as though the heavens mourned with her. The streets bustled with customers. Traders shouted prices. Carts rattled past, but to her, it all sounded distant, muffled, like voices underwater. Her hands trembled as she held her bag. Inside it was the cash from the day's sale, and nothing else. No more dreams, no more business. "I came to this market in peace," she muttered. "But now I'm leaving with sickness and shame." She walked faster, as though if she didn't, something might drag her back. That evening she arrived at Komi's apartment in Zaki Hill, unannounced. Komi opened the door, surprised. Amina looked pale, weak. Her eyes were dull, lips dry. "Amina, what happened?" Amina stepped in slowly, collapsed onto the sofa, and burst into tears. "I should have listened," she said between sobs. "I should have listened to you." Komi fetched her water, held her hand, and waited. And then Amina told her everything. The silent shop, the rituals, the early prayers, the sickness, the warnings, the sting, the fever, the sale. Komi listened quietly, nodding now and then. When the story ended, Komi sighed deeply. "I knew," she said. Amina blinked. You knew?" "I knew you had opened the shop, the way you stopped asking questions, the way you vanished. I figured it out. But since you didn't tell me, I decided to respect your silence." Amina's heart clenched. "I was ashamed. You thought I'd mock you? I thought maybe you'd feel I was copying you. Or that I wasn't strong enough." Komi smiled sadly. "Amina, Alaba Market or any market like it is, not just a place for goods. It's a war zone, a spiritual battlefield. You thought all it took was stock and smiles. But there's more, much more." "I know that now," Amina whispered. "When I saw you living your life, your car, your shop, your travel, I just wanted that. I thought if I worked hard like you, prayed like you, I'd make it." "There's nothing wrong with wanting more," Komi said. "But don't envy someone's harvest when you don't know the seed they planted or the storms they endured." Amina nodded, tears glistening. "I spent everything," she murmured. "Even the money I got from the shop. It's all gone to hospital bills." Komi squeezed her hand. "But you're still here. You lived. That means you still have a future." A few weeks later, Amina was back on her feet. The fever faded, her strength returned. Her dreams were different now, gentler, wiser. She applied for jobs, humble jobs, jobs she used to scoff at. And she got one as a receptionist at a small but busy law firm. She wore simple clothes, took public transport, ate homemade food, and smiled. She was no longer chasing shadows. She was living her truth. Whenever a successful businesswoman came to the office, dressed in fine lace dripping gold, Amina would greet her warmly. But she didn't feel jealousy anymore, because she knew. She knew what it took. She prayed, she worked, she waited. And then, the blessing came. 3 months into her new job, one of the firm's clients, a major oil and gas company, offered her a position, front desk manager. Monthly salary, 5 million naira. Amina wept again. But this time, it was joy. She had learned that not all wealth is what it seems. She had learned to stop comparing her journey to others. She had learned that the slow road is often the safest, and most of all, she had learned to trust God's timing. Dear listeners, every story carries a lesson, and this one speaks of patience, contentment, and the hidden weight of envy. Would you have braved the market storms like Amina, or taken a different path? Let me know in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, do stay connected. Click that subscribe button, share with your friends, and help this channel grow. There's more wisdom to come, one tale at a time. Until we meet again, remain grounded, remain grateful. Bye for now.